Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Rich and you've turned into another episode of Wristwatch Rescue, where yours truly rescues vintage watches from the past. Today on the bench, I've got this gorgeous Elgin Pocket Watch. It comes to me from the same gentleman by the name of Ron, who I did his Boulevard Art Deco a few months ago. And this one actually belonged to his grandfather. And it looks to me about a turn of the century because it's got several features that are a little bit newer than the pocket watch I did last year. But first, I've got to get this pocket watch open. It's really stubborn on the back. It doesn't have a push button pop. So I'm using this little tool, has this little screwdriver like tip, and it just kind of popped it. And then I can get it open. And oh gosh, it's beautiful. And so the first thing I need to do is get it out of the case. Well, this guy comes out of the front of the case. So I'll take the case screws in the back off. And then I'm going to need to take the crown stem out by loosening it. And then just pulling it out. Now to get it out the front, I need to take off this crystal, which is glass. So I need to be really careful here. There we go. Well, that came off easier than I thought. But it's not hinged. It's just pressure fitted. And it's very dirty on the inside. Gonna have to put that through the ultrasonic machine. You can see this watch has probably not been serviced in 60 or even 70 years. Now this watch was handed down to him from his grandfather, and he didn't really have the backstory on it. So I'm gonna have to do some research on it. One of the nice things about an Elgin Pocket Watch is they kept the beautiful records. Here's the records on this exact serial number. It was actually built in 1925. It's a 17 jewel. It's a grade 479. Now it's almost a railroad grade. And what that meant was it was highly accurate, and it usually had a white dial, the railroad grade, with big black letters, so you could not misread the watch. But it had a setting lever that came out from the side that was difficult to get out, so that you could not easily accidentally change the time on the watch, because the trains ran to the seconds. So, and there were usually a lot more jewels, anywhere like from 21 to 23 jewels on a railroad grade watch. Pocket watches were a work of art back in the day. Just look at the case on this and the detail around the edges. And then the dial itself has this etching in the center, and it's quite elaborate. They just don't make them like this anymore. If you're an amateur watchmaker like myself, good place to start is with a pocket watch. They're really simple and easy to take apart and put back together. And you learn so much, but it's on a larger scale. So you're not struggling with this tininess of the parts like you do on a wristwatch. So I'm going to put this beautiful watch dial in that little box and keep it safe. Then I'm going to take this little thing known as a dial washer off. And what that dial washer does is it pushes up against the back of the dial and holds this hour hand down, because the hour hand is not attached like the cannon pinion that I just removed with this cannon pinion tool. It's actually friction fitted. Now what I'd like to do is get the balance out first, now that I'm on the back of the watch, because these things are so delicate. They're easy to break. And as you can see, this watch does not have shock protection. Shock protection came along in the 1930s and 40s. And what it is that jewel on top of the balance wheel, or the shaft, had a little spring. So when you dropped the watch, it wouldn't break the pivot point on the balance wheel. And that in these older watches, you usually find broken balance shafts. And that's pretty much what watchmakers back in this era, they spent most of their time replacing balance staffs because they were common for things to break when somebody would drop their pocket watch. If you notice, this watch has the jewels are actually held in with little screws. They're not pressure fitted like modern day watches are. It's kind of a neat idea, and it made it really easy to change a jewel if it was cracked or broken. All you'd have to do is remove 2 of those screws, or in that center one's case, 3 screws, and then just kind of gently push it out and then put the new one in. I can tell Ron's grandfather took excellent care of this watch because there's not very many scratches on the case. It's not abused on the inside. I don't see any broken pivots or cracked jewels like I've seen in some pocket watches. Now with the barrel bridge off, I'm going to take this last bridge off. It only covers 2 wheels, the 4th wheel and the escape wheel. Now that bridge is kind of stuck. It's just due to dried up oil and being on there for years. So it needs to be cleaned, and we're going to do that shortly. The next wheel is known as the second wheel, or the minute wheel, because on the other side, the minute hand actually attaches to this shaft on that wheel. Then it sends it over to this 3rd wheel, and then down to this 4th wheel, which is actually your sub-seconds wheel, which the seconds hand on the dial side actually attaches to that. Now, with the mainspring barrel out, we can get to the last part of this watch, which is this pallet fork bridge, sometimes called a pallet cock. Now, the pallet fork actually looks really nice. So let's open up the mainspring and see what we've got. Well, it's dirty. It's not overly dirty. I think we can use it again. When you get that arbor out of there, and then we'll just kind of do a dance with our tweezers and get that spring out of that barrel. I've kind of sped it up here so that you can get an idea, because it takes a few seconds. Now, here's all the parts of the watch before I put them in the cleaning baskets and take them to the washing machine. And what I do is I put everything in these little baskets and then put the little baskets into the bigger one. Now with this guy, it's so big, I put the balance wheel back on the main plate. And then I take it out and put it in a wash. I've started a Patreon page. Now, what is Patreon, you ask? Well, that's for a way for people like yourself to support content creators like myself. It doesn't just have to be in YouTube. It could be in any field. I'm going to put a link to Patreon down below in the description so you can check it out further. And any contributions would be appreciated because it helps me to keep doing what I'm doing. And then lastly, we're going to put this, after it's all nice and clean, to put it in that last hole where it's dry. Now I need to put this barrel spring back in. Now I'm doing this by hand because my tools are not large enough. I have a mainspring winders that only go up so large, and pocket watches, which I don't normally do, are much larger. But as you can see, once I get it in there, I put a little lubricant on the metal part of the spring, and then gently put the arbor back in there until it grabs that little hole in the arbor there, or that little tongue on the arbor. And then I'm going to put a little bit more of this HP 1300, I believe it is, on top there. And then I've got to be careful. I want to make sure that groove on that lid is lined up with the groove on that tongue on that spring. And then I'll just snap it down. And it's ready to go. And here again, more 1300 right there on the pivot point. Now with the main spring barrel in there, I can start putting back in the train of wheels. And there again, I'm just going kind of backwards here, putting the first wheel in and then the second. And I'm lubricating the jewels as I go. Now I just realized you can't get that third wheel in because it's got to go under the second wheel. So what I'm going to do is lift that wheel back up and take it out. So I can get my third wheel in there. Get it in its pivot. There we go. There we go. And you see how each wheel engages with the cogs on the center pinion of the other wheels. And then lastly, I'm putting in the escape wheel. And it's the one with the funny little teeth. And it interacts. It's the one that goes back and forth with the pallet fork and gives you the tick and the tock of your watch. Now there's the setting lever post. I'm putting a little oil on it so that it'll go for many more years. And then just gently set this barrel bridge down because there are two wheels under the barrel bridge. And if I get it right, yeah, got it right, no problem. They got right in their pivots. And then the other two pivots go under this next bridge. They're a little bit trickier because you got to make sure your pivots are in your jewels before you start cranking down on the screws, because otherwise you'll break the jewel or break the pivot point, either one. But as you can see, it's spinning nice and easy. Next, I'm putting a little 9010 Mobius oil on these jewels. Now, it's the lightest oil that I use, and it's really for the jewels, and because what they do is they turn inside those jewels, and the oil reduces the friction, and it stays in there by a capillary effect, so it doesn't run out as you turn the watch over. Now we've got to get the keyless works back together. First thing I want to do is put a little bit of the 1300 HP oil. It's a little heavier oil than that 9010, and it's going to help this crown wheel turn a lot easier. Now this is actually a reverse thread. Then I'm going to put a little bit more of that 1300 on the top of the barrel where I'm putting the ratchet wheel. And the ratchet wheel is actually what screws down into the arbor on the barrel. So when the crown wheel turns, it turns the ratchet wheel, which in turn winds up the watch. Then that little part there in the middle is known as a click, and it keeps that wheel from turning backwards. So as you can see, as I turn that, I put a little bit of tension on that spring, you can see the train of wheels just spinning around down there. See how fast it's going? That means you're doing good. Now, before I put the pallet fork back in, I need to clean it. It was one thing I didn't put in the wash machine because it's very delicate, and those jewels are put in there with shellac, and the solvents in the washing machine can loosen them, and if you leave them in there too long, they can knock them out. So we're just going to gently get it down into its pivots, and then put this pallet fork bridge on there. Now the pallet fork, I don't put lubricant or oil on it because it basically only has a tiny little motion, and the oil can actually slow it down and can make the watch run a little bit slower. So it's not done that way. Now, after I screw this down, I'm going to test it, make sure it's swinging easily. Then I'm going to put a little wind in the mainspring barrel just to test everything out. Because with the pallet fork in there, you notice the wheels aren't spinning. But if you touch the pallet fork just so ever slightly, you see how it jumps? That's what you want to see. And that means you're ready for the balance. So here comes the moment of truth. And every watch, will it tick? So this is a big balance wheel. I gotta get it in there, get that staff. There we go. Oh, nice and easy. Now I did lubricate the jewels in the bridge of the balance staff, so I just didn't get that video in here. But this guy has a little fine-tune adjustment here, which when I first saw this, I thought it was a railroad caliber pocket watch, but it's not. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil and then kind of snap this cannon pinion back down on the minute wheel center. Put a little heavier. Now I'm using this blue grease. It's a heavier grease. You put this where there's heavy friction, like between, this is where the winding actually happens. So that there's a lot of friction between these parts. So this is the sliding pinion. I'm just going to drop it in there. Put a little bit of more of the blue grease where the yoke is going to touch it. Now this guy has kind of an unusual setup. It's a kind of a two-part yoke. Not seen this before, but it's very clever and works very well. Now I'm going to slide the stem in there for the crown wheel. And now, as you can see, I've got it in, and you can see the motion works turning. Now this is your yoke spring all in one. Your newer watches have two pieces, a yoke and a spring both. But back in the day here, they combined it. And it's going to tighten it down. And then get it into the groove there on the sliding pinion. And that's what's going to actually push that sliding pinion back and forth when you pull out the stem. Now there's one more piece I need to put in, and this is the setting lever. And it's going to tell the watch, is it in the winding mode or is it in the setting mode? So this, flip this over and screw that down. Now you can see when I pull it out, see how it clicks it? The back of it pushes against the yoke, and the front of it goes forward against that other spring. Now I'm putting that blue grease on these connection points because there's a lot of friction there. And of course, as usual, I got too much on. I'm going to work it in a little bit before I dab it off. I'm going to take my little Radico, this is called. It's like a silly putty, and that'll dab up that extra grease. And then I'm going to put on the hour wheel and then the dial, and we're almost finished. Just tighten the dial up. There's 3 screws on this watch to get the dial tight. Now, with it under my little machine here, I can put the hour hand on. And it just gently presses it down. This tool is wonderful. It lines everything up. There's no guessing if you got the right position on it. Then I'm going to check it and make sure it's not dragging on the dial. Because sometimes those hands can be bent and they'll drag. Then we'll put the minute hand on top. And I've got it up at 12, so everything will line up. And after a little bit smaller punch here, just push it down a little bit more. And here again, I'm checking to see, make sure it doesn't drag, and that the hands are at the right setting. And then lastly, we have the sub-seconds hand. We just gently set it in there. There we go. It's made contact and it's running. Then I'm going to tap it down ever so lightly with this last punch. And here again, making sure the hour and the minute hand don't connect or drag across that seconds hand. Now I'm going to take the case out to the garage and put it in my ultrasonic cleaner machine. Give it about 30 minutes, and that grease that was on that crystal and any dirt that was in that case will come off, and it'll look brand new, nice and shiny. Because a ultrasonic cleaning machine is a must if you want to get into this hobby. So we're going to put the whole movement back into the case from the front. And then before I tighten it down with the set screws, I want to make sure my crown stem is in place. And then I'm going to turn it over. I don't have the crystal on there yet. And I'm holding it so that the hands don't drag. And then I'm putting the case screws. There's 2 of them. I'm going to put those back in, tighten them up, and that holds the watch tight from coming out the front or the back, which it can't really. We'll close up the back, and then we'll put the cleaned up crystal on. Now this guy is just pressure fitted, so I don't need a tool to get it back on with. Just snap it in gently, and then just come back and kind of pinch it. Oh, there it is. Nice, all finished. I mean, this is a beautiful watch. I can't wait to send this back to Ron, and his grandfather's watch will be running like a top. I just enjoy the beauty of that, because they just don't make them like this anymore. So as always, I appreciate you coming along, and I'll see you on the next one.